Hi, my name is Imogen, I'm 19 years old and I'm currently on a gap year. However, that wasn't always the plan. This time last year, I thought I was going to university just like all of my friends, with one small twist. I wanted to go to university in the Netherlands. There are a few reasons behind this and I go over them in more detail in my other video, so be sure to go and check that out if you haven't already. Just briefly, the reasons that I wanted to go to university in the Netherlands was that it was much cheaper. It would have given me an international university experience, which is something I really wanted. I really loved the country, its culture when I visited it, and it's not so far from where I live because I live in the south of England. Today I'm going to talk about the application process of applying to a university in the Netherlands, how it differs from the UK system and what I've learned from it. So where in the UK we applied through a portal called UCAS, in the Netherlands that portal is called StudyLink. Admissions open in October, so that's kind of similar to the UK, but they don't close until kind of April, May time, which is obviously much later than the 15th of January deadline that we have here in the UK for most courses. However, in the Netherlands, similar to how we have early applicants for UCAS, they have numerous fixers courses. Numerous fixers courses are basically courses where there's lots and lots of applicants and you have to go through a selection process. If you're doing medicine, then you can only apply for one medicine course. However, if you're doing any of the other numerous fixers courses, you can apply for two. Most courses taught in English aren't numerous fixers, but there are a few exceptions to this rule, and they are medicine, economics, psychology and physiotherapy. To apply through StudyLink costs about €1,000. No. 1,000? Oh my god, that would be expensive. To apply through StudyLink costs about €100, so it's a bit more pricey than the UK system. I applied for two universities in the Netherlands. The first one was the University of Amsterdam and I applied to study Bachelor's Political Science there. I received an offer and I was really happy with that, of 3 Cs, and that course was not numerous fixers. The other university that I opted to apply for was Leiden University to study International Relations and Organisations. Both of these courses were in English, but the one in Leiden was based in The Hague. So a week later I got a conditional offer for Leiden as well, based on 3 Cs, and that is the standard offer in the Netherlands. The system works very differently. I've explained this all in my other video about how there's less focus on your A-level grades and more on how hard you work when you get to the university, and that's why they have such a low standard offer, despite being quite reputable institutions to study at. However, I then got an email from the university saying that the International Relations and Organisations course at Leiden had become numerous fixers. Great. Which means that I had to go through selection. There are 3 parts to the selection process, the first one being the online test that I had to sit. So that was a 30-question multiple choice quiz or test, and I had to sit it on a specific day, and prior to that, in the week before, I had been sent 2 lectures. One was on statistics and one was on the future of warfare, and I'd also been sent 4 articles to read about it so that I could then answer the questions in the test. And that was actually okay. I found that was fine. I then had to write a 400-word motivational letter, so that's quite similar to like our personal statement here in the UK. And I'd like to point out, before this, all the universities had was my grades, and that was the only bit of information they had about me to make their decision on whether I would get a place or not. So at this point you then had to submit your motivational letter. Now 400 words is quite a bit shorter than the UCAS 4,000 character limit. So I had to cut down my personal statement and rejig it a bit, but that was all fine. And the third thing that you have to submit is a transcript of your grades. So a transcript is just a letter from your school saying what grades that you've got at GCSE, if you've done EPQ, and what grades they predict that you're going to get at A-level. So once I'd sent this all off to university, they scored you in each part of the selection. So there was 40% weighting put on your motivational letter, 40% on your grades, and 20% on the online test. And each of these scores was out of 1,000. I've searched all over my email and I just cannot find my scores for the life of me, but I vaguely recall that my motivational letter was about 600 out of 1,000, and my online test and my grades were about 700 out of 1,000. So you get this added up score at the end of all of your different components of selection, and this is then compared with the other applicants and you start to be ranked. So the way the ranking works is that if you came under 600, you got a place. I came 148 out of 1,025, which was the full amount of applicants that applied. And I was quite happy with that, so I was definitely in, I'd got my place, and all was good at this point. So here's where the real saga begins. Trying to find accommodation was like drawing some blood out of a stone. Accommodation does not work like the UK where you apply through the university, it's guaranteed as long as you put them as your firm choice and meet your offer. No, you have to find accommodation yourself. You have two options for accommodation. You can either apply through the university, however this is a really pricey way of doing things and I'll explain the costs involved in just a minute. Or you can do what I did and opt for the second option, which is to use the various student accommodation websites in the Netherlands to try and find accommodation yourself. If you do decide to go down the route where the university sorts accommodation for you, you will be paying €300 for registration with the accommodation at the university. You will then be paying €150 to sign the contracts for your accommodation, €500 deposit for the accommodation, plus a month's rent in advance. So all of that put together is like over €1,000. When sorting out student accommodation myself, I used a website called room.nl. Room.nl is a student accommodation site for students in the Netherlands. With room.nl, you pay a one-off €35 fee to register on the website, and that means you can apply to 5 different rooms at any given time. And the cost for contracts at room.nl is only €23 compared to €150 if you go through the university. The other really important thing to know about room.nl is that all of the student accommodation on the site pretty much is unfurnished. So where in the UK you get a bed, a wardrobe, none of that comes with rooms in the Netherlands, and you need to provide all of that yourself. I signed up for accommodation in July 2018, ready to start university in September 2019. And you might be thinking, hold up Imogen, you hadn't even applied to the universities by this point, and you would be right. I went over for a student for the day experience at Leiden University in Easter 2018 and I really enjoyed it, and so that's why I decided to sign up for student accommodation early, because I'd heard that there might be a few difficulties. However, I did not foresee the saga that was about to unfold. So you've heard that accommodation is given out based on the date when you registered on the website. There is also a priority system which is aimed at helping first year students to get accommodation. So come the end of June, I've still had no luck in trying to find accommodation. All of my friends in the UK know that they've got accommodation guaranteed if they meet their grades, but unfortunately I have no such safety net. At this point, I seem to be ranking about 15th or 20th for accommodation, and the students who seem to be getting it applied 4 or 5 years ago on the website. So either these are really tuned in Dutch students who have registered for when they start high school, or these are master's students who have already studied their bachelor's in the Netherlands and as such have been registered earlier. So we're now moving into early July and I've still got no accommodation, so I decided that room.nl is just not doing enough for me and I need to sign up for 2 additional websites, and these are Room Plaza and Carmanet. And these are more focused on groups of students who are looking for student housing. I did have one message on one of these websites from a landlord who said that he'd like to meet me before obviously giving me the room, but unfortunately that just isn't possible when I live in the UK and I need to get over to the Netherlands in about 3 hours. And so I found that a lot of these websites actually favoured Dutch students, and that was one of the major barriers I faced as an international student. So we're now talking about mid-July, and I joined a Facebook group with some other girls who were looking for a room also on Room Plaza, and it looked to be going really well. We'd applied for a few 4-bed places together and we were just waiting for replies. And then I got a message from one of the girls one day saying that the 3 other girls who I was meant to be sharing with had all got accommodation together in a 3-bed house, which was just a bit peak really, but I kind of accepted it because the girls had already been looking for accommodation before I joined their group, so it was fair enough that they got accommodation. The equivalent of freshers in The Hague is called Hop Week, and it consists of beach parties, embassy tours, tours around the city, and so it's quite a different experience to what we have here in the UK. And I really wanted to be there for that. I thought if I'm going to start a university in a city that I've never lived in a completely different country, then I definitely need to be there for that. However, this Hop Week started on the 19th of August and my results day was on the 15th of August. That meant I had 4 days to try and transport all my things over to the Netherlands, to move in, to find furniture and meet other people, which just seemed like a crazy turnaround from results day. However, on the 2nd of August, I've still got no accommodation, so we're just over 2 weeks away from when I'm meant to be starting and I still haven't got a room. And luckily on this day I got an offer of accommodation from room.nl, and I thought finally everything's paid off. However, when I came to look at the accommodation, it was actually for a room in Leiden. Leiden is where the rest of the university is based. However, it's about a 20-minute train journey away from where all my lectures would be, where my friends would be, located in The Hague. For me, going to study in a completely different country for university, everything had to be right. I had to at least be able to live in the city in which I wanted to go to university in, and that was kind of one of the baselines. And so on that basis, I decided to decline that offer of accommodation. On the 6th of August, I received an email from the university saying that for all students who didn't have accommodation, showing that this wasn't just me who'd experienced this, they would be offering us a sports hall floor to sleep on for freshers whilst we tried to sort things out in the Netherlands and found ourselves accommodation. And for me, this was just the bottom line. I wasn't going to move to a completely different city, to a completely different country, and go and sleep on a sports hall floor for a week, not knowing if I'd be able to stay because I didn't know if I'd be able to find accommodation. That was just not the vision of Hot Week or freshers that I had in mind. What's more, this would have caused problems with setting up a Dutch bank account because you need to have a permanent address, and I'm not sure sports hall floor in Leiden University really counts. I needed to sign up for Hot Week and pay for Hot Week by the 8th of August, and I was just not prepared to sign up for Hot Week and lose out on money because I didn't have accommodation. And this was really the final straw for me. And at this point I decided to withdraw my application and consider other options for September. You might be wondering, why didn't I just take the accommodation offered by the university? And for me, I just thought this was far too expensive at the time. It didn't seem like it was going to be that difficult to get accommodation in the Netherlands, but obviously when it came to it, it was. However, I'm still glad that I didn't do that because the university actually sent out emails saying that they've been inundated with requests for them to find accommodation for students, and that students should start looking for their own accommodation anyway. I do think that this was a shame. Obviously, I was so excited to go to a university abroad. I was so excited about the course. It seemed really good. I loved my student for the day experience when I went over. However, I'm a big believer in the idea that things are meant to be, and obviously this wasn't meant to be, or else I would have got accommodation, and it's meant that I've been able to do other things since, which I only see as a positive. So that's all for this video. I hope you found it useful at hearing about the accommodation system in the Netherlands, whether you're thinking of applying or whether you're just interested in the possibility of maybe someday studying abroad. I hope this has given you some insight that I wish I'd have known before I started applying for accommodation in the Netherlands, and hopefully I would have been able to do things differently. If you're thinking of applying to university in the Netherlands, please leave a comment down below and we can have a chat about it. Give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe down below.